One car to do everything. A pretty compelling proposition, right? A roof that goes down for when you're stuck in boring, urban traffic. A wailing, revvy, naturally aspirated engine for once you clear city limits, and a manual gearbox for those hairpin teasing, heel-toe downshifts. A Boxer jumps to mind. What if you want a bit more engine and a usable pair of back seats? You could get an Audi S5 with that brilliant, naturally aspirated 4.2 litre V8, but if you want drama and engagement, the Quattro drivetrain might not suit. You see, if you need everyday practicality in something special enough to take for a Sunday blast, an M3 convertible is perhaps your only option.
BMW never made a bad M3, but the E46 is currently in its Goldilocks era of being modern enough to use regularly, but old school enough to deliver analog thrills. The naturally aspirated S54 straight-six engine delivers its 343 brake horsepower right below an 8,000 RPM rev limiter. It delivers that power through a 6-speed gearbox to limited slip diff via the rear wheels exclusively. The design is classic BMW and the driving experience even more so.
Now, if you spent some time in M3 circles, you may have heard some derogatory comments about the convertibles. Typically, it's lads with BTG and the numplates who spend their time harassing Clio owners on track in caged-up, semi-six-rod M3 coupes. Yes, the convertible M3s aren't bona fide track weapons. They're heavier than the coupes, and chopping off the roof affects something called torsional rigidity, whatever that is.
But we're not going to be tracking this lovely 2003 Topaz Blue E46 M3 today. Instead, I'm going to show you what it's like to live with this car in the real world on average UK roads in average UK weather. Right, so we're in an E46 M3 convertible and we're driving through some lovely little mews in Kensington. We're going to tell you what this car is like to actually live with day to day in an urban environment in traffic. Now, London these days is listed with 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, suicidal mopeds, the whole lot, tight parking spaces, and my impression of really any E46, but an M3 as well, is that they're just such a good town car. They're a really nice size. The gearbox is really easy to use. It's manual, but you know, it's a nice light clutch, nice positive engagement. Steering's nice and light and quick. It's just really easy to maneuver around town. And on top of that, it just always feels special. You still feel like you're in an M3. With the roof down, you get that distinctive S54 noise all the time, even at low revs. You don't need to be ragging this car down a B road to appreciate it for what it is. And the great thing about having a convertible is that you have all the visibility in the world. So when you're looking out for cyclists, pedestrians, when you're placing the car in a parking spot, it just makes it so much easier.
Now, as lovely as the E46 M3 convertible is to drive around town, its real talents lie on flowing country lanes and open door carriageways, where the driver is able to explore the upper rev ranges of that incredible S54 B32 engine.
Right, let's get one thing straight. An M3 feels completely different to a 330 or any other non-ME46. The two cars just aren't comparable. You first notice it from cold. These things are really grumpy. They feel like they got out of bed on the wrong side in the morning. The S54 is not happy when it's cold. It's got loads of engine braking, really twitchy throttle. It's got a slightly kind of grumpy idle, the gearbox really knuckly. Once you get it warmed up and onto an open road, you realise that everything is weighted for a nice flow at kind of 40 to 80 miles an hour. So got a bit of open road here. Eventuri intake on this. Roof down, you've got the S54 singing behind you. I mean, what more could you want? And the thing is, it's not a 10/10 car, it's not trying to be. You don't get the feeling that, you know, it's not difficult to drive around town. It's actually really nice, to be honest. It's really tractable. Yeah, especially this example. This is probably one of the nicest driving S54s I've ever experienced, because with these being quite a highly strung engine and twin Vanos, they can sometimes get a little bit hesitant at low revs. So this one's really smooth. It pulls from 2K really smoothly. The uptake's really nice. It's nice at partial throttle and low revs, which makes a huge difference. Normally when you buy these, you need to do a whole suite of sensor replacements, but this one's absolutely fine. That Eventuri intake is such nice balance. You still get that mechanical noise with S54, you still get the rasp of the exhaust, but just a bit more CSL style intake howl. Pedal and brakes are perfectly set up for heel and toe. Nice firm pedal, long throttle, really good modulation. You can put these in sport mode, which sharpens them up a little bit on the throttle, only the throttle. But personally, I quite like the long pedal when you're really getting on it, because you can get all the adjustability in the world. So we've got the windows up here and the wind deflector, which is quite a rare piece actually. It's a shame because really useful to have, and you kind of get the feeling that all of them should have had it. But with that combo, you could drive this up 70, 80 plus, still have a conversation with your passenger, and experience the S54 in full. And here's where you get the dual personality of the M3. Doing 30 miles an hour through a village, completely civilized. You just wouldn't know what this thing is capable of. The thing about when driving an M3 coupe, you always get the feeling that, you know, I wish I had a shorter final drive, coilovers, square setup, a bit more cam, all that kind of thing. But when you drive one of these, because they're not a 10/10 car, they actually feel perfect with a stock diff, stock steering rack. You don't feel the need to upgrade them too much. Got Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's on this thing, all the traction you'll ever need. Nice dry roads here. Can push it in confidence. Really nice body control on the Bilstein B6 dampers. Such an upgrade over OEM, but you still got that ride comfort, which in my opinion is actually better than OEM. It's less busy. Those of you who've driven standard E46 M3s before will know that they've got a very busy ride around town, especially on the 19s on the convertible. But this is really, really composed, really confidence inspiring. And this hydraulically assisted steering rack, I mean, it's not 911 levels of field, but it's the closest you can get really in a BMW. It's just really, really nice. Telling you everything you need to know. The thing about these cars, they've got this intangible sense of flow that you get on a nice road that is hard to get in the newer ones. So driving around town, and this is actually crucial because E46 M3 convertible, the use case for this car is a modern classic, a very special modern classic that you can use regularly. And you can use this to go to shops. You've got a decent enough boot. The boot is a bit smaller on the convertible, but with the roof up, you can fold in a compartment and it's basically the same as a coupe. And it's just so usable. I mean, the clutch is completely normal. You wouldn't know that this has 340 horsepower from an NA engine. It's completely tractable. The visibility is great, obviously being convertible. It's really easy to place. It's a nice size. It's quite small compared to a modern car, but it feels special. Even at 30 miles an hour, this thing feels so special. We've got a standard exhaust in this, and it just kind of burbles away nicely at lower RPMs. It's a real Jekyll and Hyde personality, and I think it looks great as well around town.
The E46 generation M3 must be one of the best looking BMWs, and therefore by extension, one of the best looking cars ever made. Just look at those muscular flared arches, the classic heavily browed headlights, and the slick yet stubby proportions. Chopping off the roof somehow accentuates those incredible proportions, and the fabric soft top gives the car a really elegant feel to it. With a convertible you get 3 cars in one, a refined yet muscular pillarless coupe, an airy yet costing Targa, or a full open top speedster for full exposure to those stunning S54 noises.
Got those diamond cut 19s, and then when the opportunity presents itself, you can do that. What you're hearing there is 40 years of BMW M heritage singing away behind you. That is unmatched. This is the last straight six M3, well, last NA straight six M3 that they ever made. The real privilege to be able to actually hear that singing away with the roof down. Just unbelievable, what a car. And when you do get to a village, got the roof down, you can just appreciate your surroundings, take it all in. What an experience. You can't do this in a coupe. And we're not on track here. You know, we're not chasing lap times. We don't care about torsional rigidity. It's just about enjoying the drive. And for that, this is just so good. Right, national speed limit, here we go again. Loads of mid-range from 4K, got that twin vanos kicking in. Really, really usable engine. It doesn't give you that slug of low-end torque that an S55 or similar does, but you don't want it, you don't need it. This thing loves to be revved out. If you're looking for an analog experience, the antithesis to modern motoring, this is it. It's also a useful amount of power. This is a great grand tourer. You can have the roof down on this at moto speed, still have a conversation with the passenger, get the boot full of suitcases, do a weekend away. And when you reach a single track A road, you need to make an overtake, the power's there. Oh man, what a machine! This chassis is just incredible. Probably one of the best BMW ever did. And yes, it is heavier. You do notice the weight, but it doesn't get in the way of enjoying this thing, which ultimately is what counts. That's why we buy these. I've got an M3 coupe myself, but I don't miss it. On a day like this, I really don't. Unless you're on track, this is really where it's at. Especially this particular car on the Bilstein B6s and the Eventuri intake. This is probably one of the tightest M3s I've ever driven. It's just so nice, it feels brand new in here. When you get into a car like this, you realise how much most E46 M3s have aged. This doesn't feel like a 20-year-old car, not in the slightest. And then when you want to take it easy, it's just super nice. My impression of driving a coupe is that they're a bit like driving, it's a bit like having a dog pulling on a leash all the time. They just want to be at 10 tenths all the time, which is great, you know, if that's your use case for the car, but if you want something a bit more usable, this is where it's at. So let's talk about this particular E46 M3. It's a 2003 finished in Topaz Blue. It sits on the lovely OEM 19-inch diamond cut wheels. Like all M3s, it benefits from standard Xenon's Nappa leather inside. It's also got the rare wind deflector, which makes a huge difference when you're driving at speed with the roof down. Grey interiors might not be for everyone, but it's a classic combination with the paler shades of blue, and it was actually the brochure recommended interior colour for Topaz. It's period correct, and it gives the car a really nice, airy feel. We've also got the Harman Kardon stereo upgrade here, noted by the badges on the tweeters and the subwoofer in the boot. Now, as you may be aware, E46 M3s have 4 big jobs that need doing. One is the reinforcement of the rear subframe mounting points on the boot floor, which on this car has been done and plated and braced. The other 3 are inside the engine bay. So, this car has had a preventative head gasket replacement. It's also had the rod bearings replaced and the vanos done. This example has also had several of the typical smaller M3 weak points sorted, including a replacement self-dimming rearview mirror, a refreshed power steering system, and a new set of diff seals. If you want to flick through the full list of works done to this fantastic example, check out the listing on shootingbrake.com. So if you could see yourself behind the wheel of this E46 M3, head on over to Shooting Brake, where you can bid, browse through 150 detailed photographs and read through this car's history in detail. Whether it's bidding, browsing or selling, Shooting Brake is your hub for enthusiasts and specialist vehicles.